beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Josh MacAlister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In just 3 days' time, we'll mark the 68th anniversary of the opening of Calder Hall in my constituency, the world's first commercial civil nuclear power station. At 12:16, on the 17th of October 1956, the late Queen Elizabeth II pulled the lever, directing electricity from the power station into the national grid, and Workington, 15 miles up the coast and also in my constituency, became the first town in the world to receive light, heat and power from nuclear energy. Speaking that day, Her Majesty the Queen said, "This new power, which has proved itself to be such a terrifying weapon of destruction, is harnessed for the first time for the common good of our community." And it was good for my community.
Will the honourable member give way?
I will gladly give way.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for giving way. In Heysham, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have 2 nuclear power stations, and I am campaigning for new nuclear at the same site. Would my honourable friend agree with me that we need to recapture that spirit of the early days of civil nuclear, and move at pace to deliver new nuclear for the new generation? Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
I thank my honourable friend for the intervention, and my entire speech is dedicated to that very point, so we'll gladly agree with her on it. West Cumbrians are incredibly proud of the part we played in the first clean energy revolution. You only need to speak to some of those who worked at the power plant during its 47 years in operation to hear the pride in their voices. After Calder Hall came another 10 nuclear power plants in 10 years. We opened 10 in 10 years. Richard, I will gladly give way.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend the honourable gentleman for Whitehaven and Workington for bringing this forward, and he's right to point to the 10 power stations. Can I just gently remind him of the one that didn't happen? Not as a result of what the honourable gentleman said, but Northern Ireland and the devolved nations have an important role, I believe, to play in nuclear power provision. Almost 70 years ago, there were plans to build a Northern Ireland first atomic power station in County Tyrone. Ultimately, it fell through. It's so important that we as a collective here in this House have the facilities necessary to advance our nuclear power. Does the honourable member agree with me that alongside his constituency and other areas of mainland UK, more must be done to ensure that the devolved nations, including Northern Ireland, are considered for manufacturing bases and potential areas for power stations in the future? Thank you.
My honourable friend for the intervention, and I'm glad to hear that he's not blaming me for the decades-old issue with nuclear power in Northern Ireland, but I do agree with him that every corner of the United Kingdom could benefit from its energy output. Richard Butler said at the time that Calder Hall was opened that it may be that after 1965 every new power station being built will be an atomic power station. From our dependence on fossil fuels towards the end of the 20th century, we know that that was not the case. It was the last Labour government which reignited interest in new nuclear back in 2005. The then Prime Minister, Sir Tony Blair, announced a review of the government's energy policy in order to reduce our reliance on foreign imports and tackle the threat of climate change. He recognised that we couldn't do it without renewables alone. And he rightly and firmly put civil nuclear power back on the table. In 2009, following an announcement by the then and current Secretary of State for Energy, the Right Honourable Member for Doncaster North, we had ambitious plans for 10 sites to be the home of a new fleet of nuclear power stations, including 3 in Cumbria. The aim was for this fleet to decisively shift the UK from fossil fuels to clean, dependable power, to safeguard our nuclear skills and to provide energy security for decades into the 21st century. Moorside, in my constituency, Hinckley, Sizewell, Hartlepool, Heysham, Wilver, Oldbury and Bradwell were the communities identified with delivering this mission. How many of them have a new nuclear power station today, 15 years on? 0. Under the Conservatives, only 1 new nuclear project was given the full go-ahead, Hinckley, and none opened during their time in government. 14 years squandered. Not only that, we actually went backwards, with new nuclear projects collapsing on their watch. I will gladly give way.
Thank you. Thank you for giving way. After 14 years of standstill in the nuclear sector, our communities have been left without jobs, without security, and without that, the strength of the economy and energy security. Now more than ever, communities like mine in Ynysmore need an answer to know if nuclear is on the agenda, and we need a timescale, because our young people are leaving our communities, the economy is dying on its feet, and we're actually poorer as energy producers than ever. And I believe that the last government failed this country when it comes to energy security.
I thank the member for Ynysmore and agree with her and share many of the concerns of remoter parts of Wales and England, and I think we both represent seats that have those issues. A plan in my constituency, not dissimilar to that of Wilver, a plan for a 3.4 gigawatt new nuclear power plant to be built at Moorside, adjacent to Sellafield, in my constituency, collapsed in 2018. And we now know that the previous government did nothing to intervene or to assess the impact of that collapse on my community. Instead, they promised a new process, which would deliver small modular reactors and set up Great British Nuclear to oversee the process. That process and others have allowed Conservative politicians to hide behind process for year after year, promising jam tomorrow, and for my community and many others, election after election of broken promises. I first raised the alarm about potential roadblocks to new nuclear in Cumbria before the election, which is why I launched the New Nuclear Now campaign. But it is only through questions asked since the election that I've been able to really uncover the roadblocks to site new SMRs in Cumbria. These are specific roadblocks to West Cumbria, but they are also a reflection of Britain's problem with building. Madam Deputy Speaker, I hope you and members will indulge me in explaining the exact nature of the problem briefly. The crux of the issue lies in competing demands on the land designated for new nuclear at Moorside. In short, the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority want to use a large area of it for laydown of construction materials for future buildings they hope to construct on the Sellafield site as part of their decommissioning activity. Great British Nuclear need to make an imminent decision about the site selection, and if Moorside is going to be a contender, they need to be confident that the land will be available for new nuclear plants. To put it simply, zero-sum thinking and the lack of a serious plan B from the NDA is putting the economic future of my community at risk.
My honourable friend, give way.
I'll gladly give way.
Thank you. Does my honourable friend agree that bringing new nuclear to our wonderful county of Cumbria isn't just important for the economic growth in our county, but it's absolutely essential if we're going to attract new people to come and live in Cumbria so that we can grow our population and we can begin to overcome some of the demographic challenges that we currently face?
My honourable friend and I talk about this frequently, the demographic challenges that Cumbria faces, like many post-industrial parts of our country, and actually new nuclear can put those communities on the map and act as a magnet for inward investment and also inward migration from elsewhere in the UK. Hypothetical future decommissioning work, not yet approved or funded by government, and that could use different available land, is putting a very real and current proposal to build new nuclear power at Moorside in jeopardy. This is simply unacceptable to me, and it is unacceptable to my community. I'm incredibly proud of the world-leading decommissioning work taking place at Sellafield. It's our biggest local employer. 12,000 people are directly employed and thousands more in the supply chain. The work being done there under the leadership of CEO Ewan Hutton is truly groundbreaking, and it has ensured that West Cumbria continues to play a crucial role in the nuclear industry well into the future. And I'll back any viable new projects that speed up decommissioning and create more opportunities for my community. What must change is that this work must become a springboard for Cumbria's future opportunities, not simply an anchor providing security. In truth, I have met too many people in Whitehall who think West Cumbria should consider ourselves lucky to have what we've got. I've got absolutely no time for this sentiment. It shows a complete lack of regard for a community that have been custodians of one of Europe's most hazardous sites and who want and deserve a diverse economic future that's not simply dependent on one employer. New nuclear is the key to creating that springboard to a diversified, vibrant and entrepreneurial economy. New nuclear would create a Cumbrian magnet for the energy-intensive industries, hungry for the clean, reliable baseload power that only nuclear can provide. It would build on our existing world-leading workforce and strengthen it too. It would capitalise on the goodwill of a community who understand nuclear and are eager to get building. In short, new nuclear power generation is not in any way incompatible with my community's role in decommissioning. In fact, it is a mutually beneficial endeavour. I understand the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority's position. The clue is in their name. They're there to deliver safe, efficient and effective decommissioning programmes across the UK for our nuclear waste. But they do also have a responsibility under the Energy Act to work in the interests of the local community. And our community needs and deserves more than simply decommissioning work into the future. I'm confident that the NDA can come up with a plan B for their future plans that preserves Moorside for its original purpose of new nuclear. I say this with confidence because until 2018, the NDA were planning on the basis of gigawatt-scale reactors at Moorside. My community has a site designated for new nuclear, a community which overwhelmingly supports the building of new nuclear and the skills and expertise to deliver new nuclear. So my ask of the Minister and his department is simple. I'd like the department to make clear the primacy of new nuclear use on sites currently designated for new nuclear over any other potential future uses of those bits of land, not just in my constituency. I'd like the land needed for new nuclear at Moorside transferred from the NDA to Great British Nuclear to make that intent clear. GBN have taken ownership of other land for nuclear developments, and it is now time that the same should happen at Moorside. The clock is ticking on the need for this transfer of land, as GBN will be making siting decisions in the coming months. I would also ask that the government support the NDA to come up with plans for laydown using other land available, and that the government provide long-term confidence to the NDA on some of the major decommissioning choices that lie ahead, not least on plutonium. Finally, I'd like the department to instruct Great British Nuclear to assess the Moorside site as it stands and not on the basis of any other future land use, hypothetical or real. It is my firm belief that the Moorside site will score very highly without these roadblocks placed in its way. West Cumbrians are ready to play our part in Britain's new nuclear future. We are globally recognised in the nuclear sector as an area with a match-fit supply chain, with decades of knowledge and the experience needed to build complex nuclear technology. We have a strong skills base that wants to deliver the net zero infrastructure of the future, backed up by the excellent educational institutions needed. My honourable friend, the Minister, and Government have been handed a mess by their predecessors. This Government is now being asked to fix it at the 11th hour. It is my hope that the new Government will support Cumbria in our ambitions and remove the roadblocks that stand in our way.
Yeah. Can I just check whether the member who was standing had given notice to the member in charge and the Minister that he intended to speak? Oh, he had. Apologies. Jonathan Brash.
Thanks, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd firstly like to congratulate my right honourable friend for securing this debate and actually for his continued leadership on this issue in this place. It's worth noting that throughout his speech, the word community was perhaps the most common word throughout it. And that's true of Hartlepool in my constituency, proudly home to a nuclear power station now for more than 40 years. A third of our economic footprint is down to that station, 3/4 of our business rates and more than 700 employees. In my very brief remarks, because I don't want to take up the time of the House, I just want to impress upon the Minister 3 things. The delivery of new nuclear for towns like Hartlepool and elsewhere is, of course, integral to our mission to secure clean power. It's, of course, incredibly important for decarbonising our industry, particularly the AMR options available in Hartlepool potentially. But the most important, I think, is that new nuclear can actually deliver for communities like mine the reindustrialisation, the prosperity that's been taken from them for generations. It can truly transform our local economy. And so the message for the Minister is, please, time is of the essence. Decisions are required. You've had 14 years of dither and delay. Now we can truly change our communities for the better. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Tom Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a privilege to follow the Honourable Member for Hartlepool, and I thank the Honourable Member for Whitehaven and Workington for proposing this debate. To meet our growing energy needs and prevent the catastrophic costs of climate change, we need nuclear alongside renewables. It's that simple. With nuclear power, more jobs will be highly skilled, well paid and unionised, and here I commend the dedicated and consistent work of GMB Union over many years. If ever you wanted to see the difference between our new government and the last, nuclear power is a good start. The Conservatives may talk a good game about nuclear power, but I note that not a single Conservative Member of Parliament is sitting on the benches opposite. 14 years of Conservative rule have got us nowhere. No nuclear plants were built despite a positive inheritance of 10 approved nuclear sites from the last Labour government. David Cameron sent Horizon in Wales and New Gen in Cumbria to the wall.
Can I gently remind the honourable member who should sit when I'm standing that the debate is specifically titled Nuclear Industry Cumbria, and he might like to confine his comments to Cumbria.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Just to repeat, David Cameron sent Horizon in Wales and New Gen in Cumbria to the wall. George Osborne begged the Chinese to invest in nuclear power, and we're now unpicking this mistake. Theresa May proceeded to pause Hinkley Point C, nearly killing it off, and Sizewell with it. Boris Johnson may have shown some love to nuclear, but what actually came of it? Thankfully, Liz Truss was in power for too short a time to do any more damage, and Rishi Sunak only focused on small modular reactors in the dying days of his government. It's important to spell out the ways in which Conservative Prime Ministers have done such damage to nuclear across our country, because they have therefore stymied the development of nuclear in Cumbria. And as the Honourable Member is saying, it's important that we proceed with plans there. The last Conservative government had 14 years and a multitude of nuclear projects to sign off, with developers desperate to build. Right now we could be building Hinkley, New Gen, Sizewell and small modular reactors, as we were just hearing. Instead, 2 projects were collapsed. There was endless talk about the financing of Sizewell instead of building it, and nothing was done practically about small modular reactors. Turning narrowly to Sizewell C, I'm going to briefly just say that I'm delighted by this Labour government's commitment and determination to reach a final investment decision as soon as possible. Investing in nuclear is not just right for our country, it's right for all of our communities. It can affect not just our current generation, but generations to come. Our mission, Labour's mission, isn't just about reducing damage from fossil fuels for the benefit of all. It's about our hopes for a better future, and I am pleased that they rest in large part on the prospect of British nuclear power.
Minister, Michael Shanks.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I first of all congratulate my honourable friend not only on bringing this important debate tonight and managing to get a considerable turnout for an adjournment debate, but also genuinely on the passion that he's brought on behalf of his constituents on this issue. I think he's had more meetings with ministers in my department than any other member of this House in the past 3 months, and that is credit to him. He, in his opening remarks, passionately spoke about the importance of nuclear and the need for this government to pick up from where the previous government left off, having built no new nuclear in 14 years. We are picking up this work at speed that has barely moved forward since my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Energy, was previously in the role 14 years ago. And I welcome this opportunity, Madam Deputy Speaker, to set out the government's position. Cumbria is vital to the UK's energy, defence and nuclear industry. From Barrow and Furness, where the Ministry of Defence are building and maintaining nuclear submarines, to Drigg, where the low-level waste repository disposes of nuclear waste, to Seascale, which is home to the most significant nuclear facility in the country, and finally to Carlisle, where Nuclear Transport Solutions, owner of Direct Rail Services, operates a crucial railhead for nuclear transport. Each of these locations plays a vital role in our nation's nuclear infrastructure, ensuring safety, security and innovation in the nuclear sector. And as my honourable friend outlined, Cumbria's journey has been a remarkable one of achievements, technological advancements and steadfast commitment, a testament to the people in this area who have opened their arms to nuclear and who continue to do so. The story begins in post-World War II, a time of rapid scientific progress in the global nuclear race. And as my honourable friend noted, the Calder Hall nuclear power station, opened by Her Majesty in 1956, was the world's first commercial nuclear power station, generating electricity for 47 years and providing valuable insights into reactor operations. In the 1980s, the site underwent a significant transformation and was renamed Sellafield. The name change signifying the site's broader mission, shifting from solely plutonium production to encompassing a wide range of nuclear activities, including fuel reprocessing, waste management and environmental restoration. And as the nuclear industry matured, Sellafield's focus shifted once again towards decommissioning and the environmental clean-up. The Nuclear Decommissioning Authority, established under the Energy Act, oversees nuclear decommissioning across the UK, and the NDA's mission is to clean up the legacy of nuclear waste safely, securely and cost-effectively. Sellafield is central to this mission. Spread across some 276 hectares in Cumbria, it is tasked with decommissioning ageing nuclear facilities, managing nuclear fuel and materials, and ensuring the safe disposal of nuclear waste. The site uses advanced technologies and expert knowledge to tackle these challenges, showcasing the innovation and resilience of the UK's nuclear industry. Tackling the UK's civil nuclear legacy safely, securely and cost-effectively is a national priority, with more than £3 billion being invested this year alone to ensure the NDA and its subsidiaries continue its mission to clean up the UK's nuclear legacy. A supplementary function under the Energy Act is also to promote economic development, social well-being and environmental sustainability. Figures from the economic contribution of the NDA to West Cumbria show that their activity locally supported £1.3 billion of gross value added across the local economy, which is 40% of the total gross value added for the entire area. Now, that's why this government's commitment to new nuclear is so important, and I restate that just now. The honourable gentleman and a number of my colleagues quite rightly raised the standstill approach that we had from the previous government. A lot of warm words, but 14 years of inaction, and I notice that none are here this evening. The legacy of nuclear activity in North West Cumbria is important, but so too is its future. It continues to inspire confidence and optimism. With a decommissioning mission lasting over 100 years, the NDA and Sellafield will continue to contribute to the community of West Cumbria and remain at the forefront of this vital work. The region remains, of course, also a pioneer in nuclear research and development, contributing to advancements in reactor technology, waste management and environmental protection. The lessons that we learn from Sellafield are invaluable assets right across the country and the world, guiding future endeavours in the nuclear sector. We welcome the continued engagement of the 2 Cumbrian communities involved in the national process to find a suitable site for a geological disposal facility. It's a unique process where it's the local community that will have the final say in whether it wants to host this or not. And as my honourable friend outlined, West Cumbria is also home to Moorside, a previously designated potential new nuclear site and one of several that has the capability to host future civil nuclear projects. The location of the site adjacent to Sellafield would need to be factored into any future considerations, and any prioritisation of projects in West Cumbria will of course take into account how to maximise public benefit. And so as we look towards the future of Cumbria's nuclear industry, we face both exciting opportunities and significant challenges. To meet the demands of our growing nuclear programme and to have a pipeline of workforce, industry modelling suggests we need to fill 40,000 jobs by 2030. This means we must more than double our current recruitment rate to ensure we have the skilled workforce necessary to drive our nuclear ambitions forward. The skills challenge can only be tackled through cross-sector collaborative action, and the Government remains steadfast in its commitment to working closely with the nuclear sector to deliver on these actions, to build a workforce that is ready to meet the demands of the future. Cumbria's nuclear future is bright, and with continued collaboration and dedication, we will ensure that Cumbria remains at the forefront of the nuclear industry, driving innovation and sustainability for generations to come. Now, I want to turn to the specific questions my honourable friend raised around the land at Moorside. In terms of whether the Government can make clear the primacy of new nuclear on these sites currently listed in the 2011 National Policy Statement, this listed 8 sites as being potentially suitable for deployment of new nuclear by 2025. These sites were nominated into that process by third parties, and it was never intended that listing such sites should restrict their future use. Any nuclear project at these potential sites must be subject to development consent order examination and approval, as well as site licensing and other regulatory requirements. In terms of whether Great British Nuclear could consider the technical potential of Moorside without potential future decommissioning projects nearby, I note that GBN has considered a number of sites, including Moorside, from both a project delivery and a technical perspective. The fact is, however, that the location of the site adjacent to Sellafield does need to be factored into any consideration. Any interaction between existing or future projects could introduce additional complexity, potential pressures on supporting local infrastructure, and increased delivery risk. I want to assure the House that the utilisation of the land at Moorside will undoubtedly bring investment and employment opportunities in the region, and any decisions will be made with the utmost priority given to the maximisation of opportunity for the local community. West Cumbria's nuclear history shows its commitment to scientific progress, to environmental stewardship and to public safety. And by working together, we can ensure the best possible outcome as we navigate the complexities of nuclear decommissioning, waste management and our absolute commitment as a government to new nuclear. Thank you.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Order, order.